This is an acrylic painting I did of a bee that the first version, there's the reference photo there that I took myself with my camera. Um, the initial version there became what I would call a victim of hyperfocus. I just did not take a step back. I was just into it, and it resulted in shrimp bee. I mean, it just looked ridiculous. The lack of, taking a break, walking away, coming back to it, just I got all caught up in the brush strokes and the colors that it just became so misguided. All the proportions were just way off. Um, so nothing that we can't fix, though. This is the whole point of this video, and here we go. So I just continue to paint over the original painting, just giving the bee more of a body, just widening it out. That's the nice thing about acrylic paint is you can do that, and oils as well, um, possibly gouache, but watercolor wouldn't work. So this is more of a an acrylic situation in this case. Just reinforcing the lines there on the wing, leaving it transparent, just basically putting in the dark lines and then eventually the white lines as a reflection to give that a bit of a shimmer. I'm just filling in the darks and the lights will come after. Just layering paint over the original, building it up to give it more of a 3D feel, um, a little more depth. There's some highlights there. I was mixing some paint and I guess I bumped the table and the quite inexpensive tripod that I got, I guess just was a bit top heavy with my phone and this happened. Yeah, so that was alarming. Anyway, I picked it back up and started back. Went back and stayed put, so I was able to gather myself and keep going. So here we are again with the reference photo, noticing the size of the flower is way too small. Way too small. I don't know what I was thinking. If you look at the bee, his head, the top portion of his body is as big as a flower, like the flowers are as big as that part of him. So, my original, he's just like this gigantic bee, just terrifying, really. And I have to completely paint over these flowers, but I have outlined them to roughly the size I'd like them to be with a water soluble crayon. That's what that white is there. And the it'll just be painted over, and anything that doesn't get covered, I can just take a damp brush and wipe it away so it's not permanent. So I'll just continue with these flowers. I filled in some of the flowers for the background, the lavender, just blurring it out. That brush there that you just saw was a, makeup brush, actually. It, works great for just sort of, making blurry, sort of out of focus, bokeh style backgrounds, and then I go back to the flowers, just adding some highlights. I didn't go into too much detail. This is just basically showing how you can actually correct a painting by just painting over and reworking it and learning from the mistakes. It's not like this is any sort of a masterpiece. It's just taking something that you're so frustrated with that you look at it and you just wanna cry because 'cause you've wasted time and you're just didn't turn out anything like how you wanted, and you get that sinking feeling and you just wanna rip it to pieces. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And, you can't. You just have to sort of walk away, come back, have a good laugh because it looks so ridiculous, and you just have to let it go and, uh, and then approach it calmly and say, "Hey, what can I do to fix this?" Um, just I've learned from this one that I can't, just keep on without actually looking and thinking and saying, "Does this look like the reference picture? Are these flowers, the appropriate size compared to this insect?" I would have noticed, but I didn't. I just got lost in it. So here I'm adding in a bit of, shadow, sort of the darker portions of the lavender flowers just to give them a little bit more dimension, and detailing the bee, fixing up his legs. They weren't in the right position because he was so distorted, his little shrimp body. So I had to redo this section and I just painted over with a light color, almost white, not quite, but something just to bring it back to the original canvas in a way. Well, this is paper, but just something light so that you can see what you're doing, let it dry. Once it dries, you can paint over it, and it's just like the first time you painted it. So that's just the wonderful forgiving property of acrylic paints. Again, more highlights on the wings, being very careful not to overdo them. They're barely visible. I'm just wiping off the excess paint with a paper towel so I'm not getting it into the water. And using a rake brush, like a rake that you would use for leaves. That's what it's called, a rake brush. It's got sort of broken little bristles that help make hair-like strokes, so you don't have to do each individual one. You can get a few with each stroke. And there, I made a little mistake. You can just wipe it away with a paper towel. As long as it's still wet, you can just wipe that right off and go back over it again. Just touching up, making them fluffy. And then going over, oh, this is the fun part, going over with a little bit of a glaze. It's, burnt sienna and water, just watered down, and a light glaze over top the very dried paint. You can't do this, if the paint is still wet, it'll just blend. If you put it on when it's dry, it'll add some depth, give it a golden sort of glow, and make it a little more realistic looking. So I'm just going over the paint closest to the bee's body to sort of bring out those highlights around the edges by increasing the depth of the color closer to the middle, which is quite effective. And it's all practice. I mean, this painting's not going anywhere. So it just hopefully next time a painting goes sideways, I can look at it and think, "How can I save this?" And then learn from the mistake, and that's how again, that's how we all learn and grow. If anyone has any comments or suggestions, I welcome those in the comments. I am not at all opposed to constructive feedback. Overall, I was pleased with how this little guy ended up, and I'm just taking a hairdryer to the edges of the tape so that it rips off, not rips, so that it doesn't rip. And I can just peel the tape off, revealing a nice clean edge. I did measure it out to be exactly 8 by 10 so that it would be frameable if it turned out. There's the corner. I did there's a spectacular example of ripping the paper there. But that was, I think, the only spot that happened. So it does help if you use the hairdryer just to warm it up a little bit. And sorry for the vertigo-inducing angle of the camera there, but here's our finished bee. Much improved over shrimp bee, I would say. I mean, I can nitpick this, but overall, happy with the improvement. So there you have it.